Welcome to the fine print, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Caleb Teskey, and today I'm joined by Hope Aguilera from Luna Xochitl in, I'm sure I slaughtered that, in Barrie, Vermont. Hope, thanks for being here with me today.
That was good. That was good. It's a hard
Okay.
one with the
Uh,
S. Yeah.
Before we get into anything super cannabis related, would you mind sharing a 5-minute life story with us?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in Los Angeles, California. My dad is a first gen Mexican immigrant. Um, he had an interesting life in 18th Street gang. Shout out, dad. Survived gang life. Um, Survived, over I forget a lot of years of in prison. Got out of it. Made his way out through working in halfway houses and working in the Department of Health and kind of returning to like a life of service, which was always really inspiring to me. Um, my mom is a daughter of recent Irish and Italian immigrants, so they were both very Catholic. We've since moved away from a lot of that now. Um, but yeah, so hence my name Hope. My middle name is also Milagro, which means miracle. So I have a very churchy name, Hope Milagro Aguilera. Um, I'm very like always been very proud of our Mexican roots. My dad has always kept that in us. He was very dark. We later found out that he is part black, which explains a lot of it, and very indigenous. He had a different dad than the rest of his siblings um, that he didn't know. So there's like there's a lot of family trauma that carries over in general with immigration and assimilation, and especially people of color that experience a lot of racism and trauma. Like my abuela, for example, worked in a sweatshop in LA like at least 12 hours a day, making like nothing, pennies. Um, but eventually, my mom and dad moved to New Hampshire. My mom's family was from Vermont, so they somehow convinced them to move out here, completely change their life. It was right around the time that the housing market crashed. And it was a hot mess in California. So I'm really grateful
Everywhere.
that
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, everywhere. But and obviously pollution and overpopulation, it's crazy out there. So I'm really grateful that we ended up out here. I love it. I would never go back to a city life. We live,
How old were you when you moved out to Vermont here?
I was 15 years old, so it was a traumatic a traumatic move. It was complete culture shock. I went from a high school of I think like 4,000 kids. Um, the high school that I went to, like for example, 3 6 Mafia filmed a music video there, just like casual California things. And then moved to a really small town in New Hampshire where my graduating class was like 50, if that. And it was crazy to me how everyone knew like everything about my family like the day I started school. Like everyone already knew who we were, knew everything, but like everyone was like, "Oh my god, the Mexican family like from LA." Like crazy. And it was just like it was a lot. It took a lot to adjust. But eventually I met some cool friends who I'm still friends with now, who actually live in Vermont close to us now that kind of like introduced me to like the outdoor lifestyle, crunchy granola people, which I love about Vermont, that love to hike and, enjoy the mountains and the lakes and cannabis. So I've been smoking since I think right after we moved, since I was like 16. It's pretty much the only thing to do out here, other than like the other thing to do was like
Hiking.
hiking or drinking out in the woods. essentially drinking or smoking out in the woods, which was my high school experience, which was great. And yeah, so after high school, I went to art school. I've always been an artist. Um, and that worked out a little bit. It was extremely expensive, and I had no idea what I was getting into. So I eventually transferred around and found a cheaper school, and eventually a school I liked at Green Mountain College in Vermont, which recently closed. Honestly, I really loved it just because of the crunchy granola vibes and like the farm on campus and, progressive hippie people. And I ended up getting my degree in both fine art and in education. So I taught for 4 years after that as
What
an
were
art
you
teacher.
teaching?
So I taught both middle and high school in my career. I student taught in elementary, but never really did that um, afterward, and really enjoyed it. But the teacher grind was like not the lifestyle that I wanted. Um, Teachers are extremely exploited in
Oh
this
man.
country and underpaid for the amount of work that it is, and just the amount of stress and anxiety was way too much. And me and Caleb had talked about um, discussing equity in cannabis, and that's always something that I've been passionate about. I'm light skinned, but still racially ambiguous to people. I've always had that experience of like the mixed person where people are like, they'll tell me, you don't look Mexican or you don't look whatever. And at the same time, people will tell me, you look so exotic. Where are you from? Like just the other day, I'm here and a worker is like, are you Hawaiian? Like, where are you from? And so, I've always been someone passionate about, especially with my family being immigrants, about racial equity and awareness. I tried to work in that field in education. It was extremely challenging and gaslighty. Um, what kind of happens in the education system is to get positions, like to get opportunities in equity and in diversity in these like positions that they do create to do this work in. You have to have a PhD, you have to a master's or a PhD, and have more. Essentially, it's ironic, you have to have more social status and privilege. So what ends up happening is a lot of times um, more educated and privileged white males are put in these positions, which is like, how does that help if they've never had experience with
Yeah, does
racial equity?
that seem like a little counterproductive, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. And then one of the last straws was my school started a equity, like a faculty like equity um like working team, which was great. I was excited, and they said eventually it would be paid. It wasn't paid immediately, which is horrible because it's work and time outside of school. And the person that they put as the head of it, who was paid, was a white male. So it's like, again, why are these the people that are getting paid for this work and that don't have experience in racial
Hmm.
equity to begin with? So
Hmm.
there were a lot of last straws in teaching, but that was kind of one of the big ones. It was just, kind of like a salt in the wound.
Hmm.
But I knew that I wanted to leave teaching for the past year or two, just like my lifestyle of wanting to be an artist and wanting to do all these things and work in cannabis. I knew I was leaving, and so I quit my job. We were living in Southern Vermont. We just kind of took a leap, moved to the Barrie area. Um, and we're starting this business. So yeah, we had a hemp business for the past 3 years, 3 or 4. Green Mountain Hash is me and my husband and other partners company, processing CBD and hemp for hemp farmers. We had our own tincture line, and now we are rebranding as Low Key Alchemy. And Luna Sochi is my brand line. So we're all under Green Mountain Hash, essentially the same like conglomerate, but with our own brand lines. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's where we're
I
at
wanted
today.
to send a quick shout out to Justin as well, who's been on it, and we did a great interview. He's the first guy that really made me feel stupid on
He
camera.
does
So
that.
yeah, so I'd like to thank him for that. I wanted to ask you before we move on from that, how did you guys make out in the hemp market?
So it was really difficult to compete price wise. In the first 2 years, we did really well. Justin's solventless process is extremely high quality. And we had talked about this a little bit, but we like really believe in strong doses that are affordable, like none of the 200 milligram for $50 bullshit. Like honestly, that's not okay. Um, so people saw results, and we had, in our local community, we were well known um, for being affordable and having strong medicine that people saw results from. Um, in terms of the hemp market, like you really have to keep up with these really big corporations, and getting into stores and keeping up with prices and these big brands was difficult. Um, and we always kind of knew that eventually we would move to THC, although, personally, like I love working with CBD a little bit more than Justin does. And then over the past year, I started my own line of CBD products as well. So like I kind of have been taking over the CBD stuff. And really, I think that there's room for everyone, even with the big businesses, but you really have to be passionate about what you're doing and kind of have a niche. So, my niche is creating a more feminine brand, or, not necessarily just for female people, just more feminine, using herbs, using more aromatic things, a little bit more like ritual and spiritualistic, and especially creating products that are targeted for like menstrual pain and people with uteruses. So, yeah.
And I was gonna say I got one of your little magic samples right here, and I got to tell you, like, can you tell us a little bit about what's in this bottle, or as much as you care to divulge, because this has really been one of the only things that's ever helped me at all to deal with the arthritis inflammation.
Yeah. So, like I said, we really believe in stronger doses. So, for both our CBD tinctures and moving forward, when we have our license for THC products, um, we aim, for 1 to 2,000 milligram an ounce tinctures. Our tinctures are made from hash rosin using a solventless process. Um, if people are familiar with bubble hash and how great bubble hash is, we
Mm-hmm.
have created a process, and I shouldn't say we because it's really Justin's nerd thing of his process that I support. I'm his wife, I'm there for him, and his machinery that he essentially like created himself, um, to process massive amounts in an environmentally friendly, because it's just ice water extraction, and also affordable. There's no, giant costs other than the our machinery, in our lab and things like that. But there's no chemicals, there's, no additives. It's solventless and full spectrum. The whole plant is used, you know. So again, we really believe in like the quality that we make in our tinctures. Justin is a genius. Like he is straight up like a nerd in
I'm
the
glad
best
we agree
way.
on that.
So he has a complete, I don't want to give away too much, but he has a complete deconstruction process where he's able to, um, create amazing concentrates with amazing taste, with the whole full spectrum of cannabinoids, and where he can also deconstruct and take out excess waxes, and things like that that affect the taste and the quality. So yeah. And we use again, we use a hash rosin tincture that's tinctured in organic oil. So we love organic MCT coconut oil, and we really advocate for that. It's great for your digestion. What's amazing about it is like literally can go anywhere on your body. Like the THC stuff, not so much, but the CBD tincture can literally put it on a wound. Like it's safe, it's
No
safe for
shit.
any part of your body. Um, and again, there's no chemicals or anything, so you can literally put it anywhere. And I created a intimacy and menstrual relief oil using MCT coconut oil that's amazing. And we love how versatile it is and how we can advertise our tinctures as both a edible and a topical, and they work, both ways.
And I got to stop you right there because that was one of the most fascinating things I've ever heard. And I want to be very careful about this because I know we're not supposed to make any type of sort of overarching health claims about these products.
Yeah.
But you said that they can also be used to treat menstrual cramps.
Yeah, and something we always say with the FDA's regulation is that's in our experience. So in
Right.
our experience, yeah, absolutely. So in my experience, I've used that to treat all kinds of pain, especially menstrual cramps. So what kind of gave me the idea is both me and my sister more, have always had really bad cramps. My sister to the point where like that day, like the day that happens, she literally couldn't get out of bed. Like she couldn't go anywhere. Like she had to like call, cancel her plans. And so I've always been really passionate about wellness in many different ways, like from nutrition. I'm also a yoga teacher. So
Oh,
it's
no
like a
shit.
holistic approach. But I wanted to create something, especially with hemp, that is so amazing for pain relief, in our experience for using it. And so I was I think it was Las Vegas actually, and there's a dispensary that had it was like advertised as like a menstrual relief THC suppository. And I was like, oh, interesting. But at the same time, I was like, what if you want pain relief and not be like high as shit, So that kind of gave me the idea. And I, started playing around with it and found like the oil is also a little bit more appealing for people to use than like putting a pill, in there. It's like when I hear suppository, I just think your butt, like so yeah, so it's had some great response from people. I'm very like the more, we can get I can encourage people and people can become more comfortable like down there and like just in general as a society, like not stigmatize it so much because it's something that like every person with a uterus goes through every month, and then if you have a partner, your partner is also experiencing your whatever's going on, your emotions, your anger,
Thank you for acknowledging that.
yeah. It doesn't just affect us. Like, it's also our partners that have to deal with it. And when you're in bed, like incapacitated, like that sucks. That's really affecting your life. So yeah, so I'm really excited about getting it out to people and people finding results with it. And also, um, I really love marketing it also as an intimacy oil because CBD has properties that increase blood flow in small amounts. So larger amounts you would use for pain and smaller amounts for increased blood flow. So just, getting some action down there.
Okay.
And yeah, and it's obviously much safer to use than chemical things that you buy at the store, that aren't really natural, things that should be going like inside your body.
Mm.
Um, because of the way our bodies are designed to, like if you have anything that goes inside of your uterus, like it goes right to your bloodstream. It's not like processed anywhere, like it literally goes in there, it's right in your bloodstream. So it's also really nice to use cannabis in that way. Or, if you wanted to get high as shit with a THC suppository, like absolutely go for it. That's great. Um,
I haven't
and you
tried boosting
will,
it yet.
you will because it goes right to your bloodstream.
Hmm.
Like, so it's instant relief, like within like 2 minutes, which is awesome. So yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I have to try next time I get a arthritis flare up. That is a new one, which I was unaware that cannabis was being used as a suppository
Mhm.
until I, pretty recently here, the last several months, I'd say. Like I had no idea people
Mhm.
were doing that.
Yeah.
I'm learning new things every day.
Yeah. Cannabis everywhere.
And one thing that I really liked about the MCT oil extracts is, for someone who's trying to drink less, it definitely like, if you give me a little tincture with a little bit of alcohol in it, it's like, okay, I'm starting to get that tingle, and like I appreciated that. I'm sure some other folks who are trying to uh, get off the sauce would also appreciate something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some people are just sensitive to alcohol. So yeah.
And it seemed like really, when Justin told me to put it on my skin, he said, if you have any pain, just like rub it on your wrist or something. I was like, really? Because I've never used a tincture topically, but I
Mhm.
found it's also like uh, kind of a nice moisturizer.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of one reason I mentioned like we're obsessed with MCT oil because like also just in my herbalism journey as an herbalist, it's like my favorite oil to infuse herbs in. Because I love making all my own like body care products. So first of all, I don't have to buy them. Second of all, um, I know what's in it and it's not chemical bullshit that's going into my body. Like, especially as like female person or feminine people that like use makeup and use a lot of body care products, like if you buy them at the store and don't buy like organic specifically, like they all have so many chemicals in them. Like just fragrance, yeah, like the fragrance, if it says fragrance, you don't know what that fragrance is. It could
Right.
be
That's
any
like a
artificial.
1,000 different chemicals.
Exactly, yeah, and they're finding with research that these chemicals mimic hormones in the body and do all kinds of fuckety shit, you know? Sorry for my language, but
No, that's
they're horrible.
accurate.
They're horrible for you.
And I've noticed a
So
lot of them contain talc as well, which is commonly found asbestos. And um, boy, it seems like the cosmetics industry is really, in terms of like pollution, also and toxicity, just really seems like. And I've watched people like that have skin problems that'll try to just try 18,000 different makeups and this product and that product. It's like sometimes I think maybe those products are just making the problem worse.
exactly, and it's one of those things where the organic and healthier products too are more expensive and less accessible to folks.
Sure.
So, it's like you kind of have to find a balance of like what can you afford and what is reasonable to do. So, that's why I really see herbalism as like mutual aid because I create these products that other people can use, like I'm making them for me. So I just make them in big batches that I can sell to other people. One of our big goals is to make things affordable. So we always make it a point to be looking at our competitors' prices and saying, how can we, bring this down? Because a lot of the CBD market is extremely high prices and
Mhm.
extremely unaffordable to so many people,
Yeah.
especially people that are marginalized, like in so many ways, racially marginalized. One of our partners, a veteran, who has so many um, PTSD issues, veterans, people that have experienced trauma that need hemp, they need cannabis medicine, they need these self care products, but can't afford it, like that doesn't make sense. So, also, whenever I do markets, and I encourage other people that can do this, if I do a farmer's market or an event or something, I just put out a little sign that I give, whatever 20% discount for people of color and veterans. And people really appreciate that. Like they will really be like, wow, like I have a hard time affording this, but I really need this. So it's just something to think about and recognize. especially moving forward in our cannabis THC market, recreational cannabis market. Like, how are we getting this medicine to people that need it, that can't afford it? And also, as a way of making reparations for the years and years that especially people of color have been demonized and their lives, like criminalized and demonized for use of cannabis.
Hmm. Indeed. And I'm curious, sort of, this was something I didn't realize until we spoke earlier, but I love talking with the veterans about cannabis. I've had a great time getting to know some of these guys. And I'm curious how you sort of got partnered up with a veteran on your business.
Yeah, so it was kind of just like um, fate intervening. We had moved to, when I got out of college, we had moved to a new town where we didn't know anyone, and Adam and his partner Maria, we just immediately like bonded with. I think we met them at the farmers market. They were selling their at the time they were pressing their own hemp seed oil and coconut oil, just because they just
Okay.
do so many things,
All
which was
right.
really cool, and making CBD oils. So we connected with them instantly. His partner Maria is Dominican, so it was really nice for me. I don't meet a lot of Latino people in Vermont, so
No
so
doubt.
yeah, we just kind of clicked right away, and um, Adam and Justin started nerding out right away, and yeah.
Is Adam also a nerd?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. In his own way.
Hmm.
They like are both super Star Trek nerds. So
All right. Uh,
like every second referring to Ferengis and rules
you,
of acquisition.
I wanted to just double back on the cosmetics things for a minute. Is there
Yeah.
any other sort of skincare products or any other type of products like that are in your product line?
Yeah. So I'm kind of expanding that a little bit. I'm not like super focused on skincare. I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine who has a CBD skincare line. Um, in Vermont. So her name's Magic Shay, her brand name. She's in Brattleboro, and you can find some of her products locally there and online. And she is also an esthetician, so she knows what she's doing with skin. For me, I'm very much more interested with the plants and like the energetics of the plant and interacting with them through skincare or through body care, and like using body care products as self-care. So like for me, I've always had like anxiety, depression, things like that, which is why I love cannabis so much.
Me
For
too.
me, like my products are very much, yeah, like self-care. I use them, like we use the tincture oils for massage. Like my favorite self-care thing, I'll do this like once a week at least, is cover your back in CBD tincture oil, lay on one of those like back massagers that you can put on the chair. Amazing, like life changing. I also create, I mentioned the intimacy oil. I've made a scalp and hair oil, like a minty, tingly scalp and hair oil, and salves. So salves are with beeswax, like a more solid kind of balm. And those have so many uses. They're really amazing. They're kind of like a natural ointment or deep moisturizer. They're also great for like massage as well. If you don't want to get all greasy, they're great for a little spot treatment, like just rubbing it into your neck. I love doing a foot massage with those, like putting on a really thick layer and then put fuzzy socks on overnight. Amazing. Yeah. So I really see them more as like self care and finding routines that um, help you feel good in your body. I am working on a face and chest moisturizer, not necessarily like like I want to be careful in that line because I'm not an esthetician. I'm not like a skincare person. So, I don't know. I'm not trying to treat acne or anything. But I love self-massage and self-care.
Mm.
It's actually a practice from yoga. It's called Abhyanga, of a daily routine of oiling your body and like massaging it and like self-massage, just as a way to like get your blood flowing and like open up your nervous pathways a little bit and your fascial
Yeah,
tissues, just to,
I'm constantly.
yeah, just to
Yeah.
and just to like feel good, like just to relieve some stress. Like it really does so much. Um, the other thing that I love, love, love is baths and bath salts. And taking a good hot bath. Like there's really nothing better. Oh, but I was mentioning I am working on like a face and chest oil for lymphatic massage, something that I'm really getting into, which, you know, TCM and Chinese medicine have known about forever, but I feel like it's just kind of catching on now in the West, of like, facial massage, simple things you can do with your hand even. They also have like a tool for it where you like it looks like a flat stone. And it clears your lymph and also like increases blood flow to your face, which can help clear up your skin, but also again, just it feels really good. Feels good. And like I really think that the more we can practice like taking care of ourselves and feeling good in our bodies, like just the better we'll feel in our life. And like, so why not, like why not just feel better?
And I kind of got me thinking here, because I feel like a lot of the cosmetics industry is sort of selling you this image of like self-care and this image of like beauty and these things. And meanwhile, you're like slathering these toxic chemicals all over your body. And it seems like very much just a counterproductive. If you're trying to take care of yourself, like maybe just loading your skin up with all of these chemicals to absorb is not the best path to take. But
Yes,
that's just me. I'm not
exactly.
a big cosmetics guy, but
Exactly. And even like the acne face washes, like there's so many things like they'll sell you that like, oh, like proactive and all these acne things. Like I used proactive for years when I was a teenager, that like they're full of chemicals.
that's
Like
just like
what
acid,
are they
right?
gonna do?
It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, like salicylic acid, I believe, is usually in there. Like I used to have wicked acne in high school, and those Clearasil pads that just felt like it was like burning it wasn't like
Exactly.
curing anything, it was just burning the skin off of there. Like,
Yeah. Just adding more chemicals to your body.
right.
And like I said, like clearing your lymph and doing face massage, like that has done more for me than anything ever has. Like really the only thing that cleared up my skin was like eating healthy, doing yoga, taking care of my body and drinking lots of water. Like really, you know, you don't need these chemical crap. Like it's really things that it's a huge marketing scheme, it's a money grab. So
Sure.
recognizing that and like really I'm all about like in the work that I do and kind of my social media presence, or I try to be, is like taking back your own health, like not letting these giant corporations sell you and make you believe that you need these things, like taking care of yourself and recognizing like you can eat healthy, exercise, take care of your body, and take care of your own health like on your own,
Mm. I feel like humans made it a good while without having foundation. We did all right without lipstick, like it looks
Hey, I
nice
wear
sometimes.
foundation, Caleb, but
uh, I won't
yeah,
hold
for
it against
sure.
you. um,
If anyone's looking for a good foundation, Bare Minerals is my favorite brand. They're a little pricey, but again, you know, it's kind of worth it if you can make it happen.
hmm. Yeah,
No
especially
chemicals or anything.
it seems like some of the manufacturing process involved with making those products are just leave incredibly toxic waste streams in their wake.
Yep, it's probably on par with the fashion industry as well,
Mm.
which
Well,
is
that's a
the
whole
same.
other can of worms. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the same idea, is like convincing you, getting you excited with these, you know, these pieces that they sell to you and make you think that you need, you need to have this new outfit, instead of reusing what you already have, or thrifting, or secondhand shopping, which you can find things just like it. Like, now we have like online thrift stores. It's so easy, but people want the brand new.
Well, I mean, in the fashion industry, a lot of times those nice garments come with some woman working in a sweatshop.
100%. Yeah. Like Shein exposed for that. Bunch of celebrities, Kardashians exposed for using that.
Mm. Yeah, it seems like a lot of you know, Indonesia, kind of Philippines, Southeast Asia area where a lot of that manufacturing is being done in, yeah, from what I've seen, just really awful conditions for basically what seems like slave wages.
Yep.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially in Nepal.
The textiles is a
Actually,
ruthless industry.
yeah, I actually met a woman. My younger sister did a TED talk, which was really cool. She's like becoming an internationally famous poet and writer and musician. Her name's
Yeah.
Angelica Maria, if anyone's interested. Shout out to my sister. So
Mhm.
I was at she did a TEDx talk in Colorado, and I met an amazing woman. Her name's Nazreen Sheikh, and she owns just a quick plug for her. She's amazing. She owns this nonprofit called Local Women's Handicrafts. They have an online store, and she like created this business that is, its goal is to get women, and especially young women and children, out of the sweatshops in Nepal. And she trains them like in embroidery and like textile arts and stuff, to employ them either with her, or so that they can be employed and make a living wage, a decent wage. And she sells her products online, which and ships them to the US and stuff, which helps fund it. It's really amazing, and like a great example of like ways that we can um support people doing the work, like to help end slave labor. So it's pretty amazing.
Sure. And I see, nothing against people using the drop shipping, but it seems like the drop shipping options often, you know, um, that's where the stuff's being manufactured, and it's such a cheap and convenient option that it seems like a lot of people just default to that just in for the cost savings.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, we live in capitalism where we have to make money to survive, and it's obviously a rough economy out there right now with inflation. It was already, you know,
Mm,
already tough to begin with, and now here we are.
mm. And the capitalism was something you touched on, is sort of trying to maybe distance yourself from it a little bit, or I don't know. Would you care to expand on that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a business, I'm always thinking about um how small business really, to me, like, is anti-capitalist, even though it's still obviously for profit. Like, we have to make a profit to survive. Um, but as opposed to supporting these giant corporations like Kellogg's, Nestle's been known to use child labor for
Fuck
chocolate forever.
Nestle.
Yeah, and people still buy the shit out of their Halloween candy. Are you kidding? Like, instead of supporting these giant corporations who are also polluting the earth, support your local farmer. Go to the farmer's market. Support your local hardware store instead of Lowe's. Support you know, your local cannabis business instead of these giant MSO corporations. And the more that we can support local businesses and source local, really, like, that just helps the environment. Um, it helps, grow our local economy as opposed to being reliant on these giant corporations. These giant corporations also lobby, like Pepsi Cola. They control our politics and make our laws. So
I think
to me,
Coke.
that's
That's more
divesting
Coke.
from capitalism.
Pepsi wishes they could control it.
Or
they,
Coca-Cola, yeah.
yeah, it's more Coke. Coke won the cola wars. But yeah, I agree, and for sure, especially in terms of just like like packaging is one thing that has been a big issue. Like, like I personally, I don't think you should have to put a pre-roll joint in a glass tube to sell it to someone like that.
I
That
know.
means now you've had to manufacture a glass tube somewhere, and someone had to manufacture a sticker, and someone had to manufacture the top of the tube, and someone had to manufacture the printers to print the labels and make the inks to put
Yep.
on the stickers and all
So
of
I
that.
was using glass tubes for a hot minute for pre-rolls, CBD pre-rolls. And then I realized like when I get them in the mail, glass has to be packaged with a crap ton of styrofoam to keep it
That's
safe. There's like, it's way more styrofoam than plastic.
and
That's like the plastic that wraps, like I now use just tins, like
we pulled. So
it makes no sense.
my buddy got a shipment of 8 boxes of glass jars, and he started unpackaging them, and each one of the glass jars is individually bubble wrapped in there.
Yep.
And then after that, the entire box is then put inside of another box with another
Mhm.
layer of bubble wrapping around the outside of that. And by the time he unpacked these 8 boxes, which was like 1,500 jars, maybe, he pulled out enough bubble wrap to fill almost a 50-gallon trash bucket. And he had packed it down even. And to see that was kind of incredible. To see
Yeah.
that, like, even
And send
even
pictures
the
of that to the state.
even the glass that is supposed, like, I know they're trying to move away from plastic, and I appreciate that. Like, I think that's a good idea, but like when we look at how that's panning out, a lot of these other the glass comes with so much plastic. um
Yeah. Like
like
why can't we use compostable plastic? Like there are plenty of options. Really, like hemp is such an amazing versatile thing, and I really hope people in this country will start to produce hemp products, like not just, you know, medicinal products, but like hemp paper, hemp fiber, hemp clothing, hemp they can make hemp plastics, that are biodegradable. Like, why aren't we focusing on that? Um, and it goes back to, our logging industry that Harry Anslinger was invested in at the time of marijuana prohibition. Like there was this kind of simultaneous racism against marijuana or cannabis, I should say. They use the word marijuana to make it sound more Mexican
mm,
and more scary. Um, and simultaneously, he was heavily invested, or and the people he knew were heavily invested in the logging timber industry that was threatened by hemp fiber.
mm,
So at this point, we're in climate crisis, according to our scientists that people don't like to believe, even though these glaciers are melting on the news, and all these things are happening, and we're still logging, like we're still destroying our forests,
mm.
which are essential and put, what we need, carbon dioxide, into the air. So
Yeah, it's a damn shame to see like every day 27 football fields get erased from the Amazon. Like, why? So we could have
yeah,
more fucking cows for McDonald's? Like, at some point there's gotta.
exactly. And that goes back to, again, like, how can we make it financially affordable to support our local farmers and prioritize supporting our local farmers? And sometimes that means we might have to pay more, like maybe we can pay less on snacks, soda, these extra, consumable things that we is dominating our society because capitalism sells it to us. Like, oh, you need this, little soda, you need this little treat, you need these gummies because they make you happy. Like, you know, why aren't we prioritizing a little bit more? What actually makes us happy is being in nature, having a good community, having friends, healthy family, things that we enjoy doing, as opposed to short-term gratification, consumables, that we spend all our money on.
And I'm one of those people who, when I have the money, I definitely don't mind paying a little extra to know, like, hey, like, if I could buy a tincture from you guys for $60 or something, and Walmart was selling it for 50, like I'm gonna go give you guys the $60 every time, because
Walmart
fuck
weed.
what. Yeah, but like, I mean, there is a certain tipping
Sure, it'll
point, I
happen.
imagine, where that's gonna tip for a lot of people. But I always try to, like, whenever possible, because the thing is, like, yeah, it might seem more expensive now, but if we invested our dollars into these things, theoretically over time the price would come down. If we stopped spending so much money at fucking Amazon and we started investing some of it locally, you know some of that money might stick around in the community, and those businesses can then
Mhm.
use that money to put back into their business and help bring you a better product for maybe a better price.
Exactly. And, like I said, there's always a balance because, sometimes all you can afford is, ordering the thing on Amazon. And like, you got to do what you got to do. But then at the same time, can you make it a commitment to, save money? Like, I've never been good at saving money. I never learned how to save money, coming from poverty. And the biggest thing that has really changed my mind about it is learning financial literacy and learning that you should always pay yourself first, like always put away savings first before spending. Because, our society and capitalism tells us and like convinces us, like to the point that as soon as we get paid, and so many of us have this, as soon as we get paid, oh, we can go out to dinner now. Oh, we can, I can go buy whatever. I can go out to the movies. I can go buy that new shirt I want. I can go buy this, instead of thinking about the future of, okay, I want to be wealthier. I want to have stability. So I'm going to put away money to start to build that. It's like we get stuck in this loop of instant gratification and thinking we need these things. Um, but really we should be building for the future, for our communities, for ourselves,
Mm,
for our future generations that
mm.
will hopefully be alive in this and not drowning in climate change floods, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, it's kind of like I said to you, like, I've pretty much been broke the whole time too, and it's weird, like, when you get a little money, sometimes it feels like you're never gonna have it again. So, like, why
Hmm.
save it? Like, some people have a bleak outlook of the future. I've certainly been one of those people for a long time, and it's like, well, fuck, you can't take it with you. I've never had it before. Might as well get something now while I can, as opposed
Yeah,
to, like, it's hard to build on like a small amount of money. Like, if you want to like invest like a little nest egg, it helps to have something to start with. So it'll build, like,
exactly.
when you're building from nothing, a lot of times it seems kind of hopeless. At least it did for me.
Yeah, and that's definitely like a poverty response because, when you grow up, again, this is capitalism. Like when you grow up having nothing, but you see all your friends, like where I grew up in California, like everyone has like True Religion jeans, like $200 jeans, like Coach bags and crap. And you see that and you have like thrift store clothes. Of course, when you get money, you're gonna be like, oh my God, like I can be one of those people. Like I can have nice things, but like again, like is that actually going to make you happy, or would you rather start to build wealth that'll keep you
Mm,
stable? So just something to think about. And
mm,
my the um guy that is looking at my home loan, actually he mailed me this random book. It's called Richest Man in Babylon, for other people that also have money struggles. It's like a really outdated kind of weird book because it's set in like ancient Babylon. So, trigger warning, it talks about slavery and stuff. But this one principle it teaches is just every time you get paid, you put away 10% of it, no matter what. And that's like how you'll start to build wealth. Because eventually over time, like if you commit to this goal, you're always saving 10%, then you're never spending all of your money. You know what I mean? And you'll find a way to make it work. You might just have to buy less coffees or whatever, and like I hate that saying of like, oh, maybe you guys could save money. Maybe millennials can save money if they stop buying iced coffee and avocado toast. Like, look at the economy. But, maybe there's a few less iced coffees that you buy that you can save that $10 a week or whatever it is. And eventually over the year, it'll be like 1,000 or whatever. And then you can invest that $1,000 in the stock market or whatever it is. And you always just have that commitment that you're growing wealth, and stability for yourself instead of kind of living in that loop of, because so many people just live paycheck to paycheck, you know, and it's really like, it sucks. It keeping people poor is like the goal of capitalism, to keep you like overworked that you can't even like think about, you know, like anything else other than your bills and working. And you can't even imagine like anything else other than capitalism, you know?
Mm,
They don't want a
speaking
revolution.
speaking my language there, Hope.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I would love to talk about just going back to like the history of cannabis and how we got here. Um, and Harry Anslinger, this man.
Go for it. It's all you.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to put in context right now as cannabis is being legalized, you know, in more and more states, and hopefully federally eventually, if they can get it together, because something really important for cannabis business owners to think about is federal housing loans will not count cannabis income, a cannabis business income, for a house loan. So if you own a cannabis business, you cannot finance a house. You would have to buy it in cash, which is ridiculous. Or, you know, have a spouse that has different income that could qualify, that's not cannabis.
I didn't know
That's
that.
insane.
Thanks for
That's
that.
insane. Yeah. So, you know, that's something we were looking at. And it's like, why? You know, why wouldn't you want, like, obviously, cannabis business owners are going to be generating wealth and revenue. Why wouldn't you want them owning property? You
Does
know?
it?
So
Does some of these things feel like sort of discriminatory,
I don't know. I think it's just like
or like they're singling out
backward.
cannabis business?
I mean, probably, honestly. And, you know, obviously, big pharma is going to want to try and keep its hold some way. Like we know, research knows that cannabis can help people get off of opioids, get off of all that, you know, all these medications. So
In our experience.
in our experience, yeah, it has happened. So, you know, I'm automatically like, I'm come from a family of brown people and immigrants who have been racially discriminated. Like, so I automatically am like, I don't trust the government. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't. So they are run by corporate interests, and we have to remember that, like, money kind of runs everything. The people with money run everything.
Hmm.
So anyway, going back to prohibition, and we still have federal prohibition, like the states are legalizing, it's still federally illegal. Like, remember back in the day when the feds would raid California freaking head shops? Like, that scares me. I'm like, they could still technically do that if they wanted to, if they wanted to spend their money. It would be
People are
kind of a
still
waste of
getting
time.
arrested. Yep.
Yeah, so that's scary. The reason that in this country, cannabis was prohibited was, again, going back to Harry Anslinger. He, I think he was head of the DEA or something. He was put in control of something to do with drugs.
I believe
He
that's
had
correct.
heavy, yeah, he had heavy investment in the timber industry, and cannabis was a threat. It was also during the time in the 20s of jazz music, and all of these bold Black and brown people who have the audacity to be enjoying their lives now, you know, now that they can have jobs and be successful, have music, and that threatened like the purity. Like, think about like the 1920s, like white family. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what's it called? Like, the idea of a perfect family,
The,
praises God, super religious, pure,
the
you
like
know?
the atomic family, whatever the fuck they call it, something like that. You're
Yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah.
stereotypical 2.5 kids and a white picket fence.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. And listening to jazz music was satanic. Mexican people, satanic, because they smoked weed, they listened to jazz, they, especially Mexican people who still practice their indigenous cultures, right? Like the Aztecs were so demonized for sacrificing people. Not to say that that's right, but what's the difference between prisoners of war and the Christian, what's it called? The Christian war escapades. I'm forgetting the word, but
Crusades?
crusades, yeah.
There we go.
Escapade,
Okay.
escalade. The Christian crusades, they killed thousands and thousands of people. What's the difference between that? You know, but one is seen as satanic and demonic, and one is seen as religious and pure and right.
Hmm.
So, you know, brown and black people started to thrive. So it was really easy. There was a lot of racial tension because there was a lot of Mexican immigrants now coming into the US after the Mexican Revolution. And there was jazz culture and black people like having music clubs, dancing, you know, like having fun. And then
Right. And
white,
white women enjoying it.
I was just gonna say that. And white women, yeah, hanging out with brown and black people. And white men who, you know, still, we have to think about that time period. Like they didn't want women to show their ankles. Like it wasn't long before that that women were not allowed to like ride a bike in public because it would show their ankles. And it wasn't proper to be exercising in public. So white men were like, oh my God, they're going to seduce our women into satanic jazz culture of dancing and having fun, you know?
Which
So
was
it
a
was
to
super.
be fair, legitimate concern. You know,
So
I love
they,
jazz. You know, hell yeah.
so they were fearful of losing their, you know, their idea of a pure way of life. So
Hmm.
it was super, super easy to start an anti-cannabis campaign based in racism and fear mongering.
Hmm.
You know, and I wish we learned about this more because it would educate people like on current politics. Even now, 100 years later, like the same politics of fear mongering, demonizing of people of color, like still now, like you can see it, you know? So Anslinger, he knew it would be super easy to start a campaign and people would get on board if they associated cannabis with Mexicans and black people and people of color. So that's why it became known as marijuana. They even changed the H. So marijuana was like a Spanish, you know, kind of slang word for it. They changed the H to a J to make it look more Spanish looking. So people would associate it. And
Really,
of course, the reefer madness crap, you
I
know.
didn't know that part.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So it was super easy to spread this fear mongering campaign. Obviously, it became very popular to the point where it became prohibited.
Well,
Before then,
meanwhile, I believe. Sorry to interrupt you, but meanwhile, I think Bayer was selling people like heroin in a bottle, like
oh yeah,
recreational.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
this is when they had actual cocaine in
Hmm.
Coca-Cola. So before
Crazy.
then, like, it was really normal, not just in the US, in Mexico too. It was really normal to have these like cannabis medicines. They would make extracts and alcohol and use it for like everything, like nausea, whatever, when you're sick. It was really normal and common to have that as like a folk medicine. And then obviously this campaign was successful, prohibition happened.
Yeah,
Here we are
super.
100 years later, 100 years, and it's still prohibited, it's still federally illegal. Like, make it make sense.
Hmm. And now I know you touched on the social equity a little bit earlier as it pertained to sort of teaching, but I know there was this big thrust to sort of make up for this sort of the sort of racist policies that got us here with the legislature and their push for this social equity. And how do you feel like they did in the legislation when they rolled out this concept?
Yeah, so if you're unaware of Vermont's equity program, if you are considered, like you have to apply to qualify as an equity business, but if you're considered an equity business, then you don't have to pay the licensing fee, but I think it's only the first year. I'm pretty sure it's only the first year. You don't have to pay it, which, you know, in
They
some
phase it
cases can
back
be really
in.
helpful.
Sorry, that yeah, they phase it back in like 25% the next year, and then 50, and then
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, you know, which can help getting started. Absolutely. And then Vermont, stated that equity applications would be prioritized. So to qualify for an equity business, your business has to be owned more than 50% by either someone who has been arrested. I think you had to have been like in jail for cannabis. Someone in your family, like direct family, has been imprisoned for cannabis, or you're a racial minority group. They specifically stated Black and Hispanic people, which is helpful. I personally think it should apply to all people of color who experience racial stigmatizing, especially with cannabis, because as we know, if you have used cannabis or just are aware of our country, police use cannabis or the suspicion of cannabis as a reason to frisk, a reason to search, a reason to arrest, um, a reason to harass Black and brown communities, especially. So I think that it's great that Vermont has this. I think they can do better and do more personally. After literally cannabis prohibition was based upon racism, or like, it passed because of racism. And since then, Black and brown communities have been policed, imprisoned, and harassed. And not just that, but demonized, like imagine being a parent of color, and like your school system where your child goes knows you smoke weed, and just kind of like associates your whole family with being like drug addicts, when you just have like anxiety or glaucoma or something, or pain. So I think that the state could do a little better. I think that equity applications should be 100% prior, especially a racial equity application, 100% prioritized. And even funded, which nobody wants to hear. And jobs, like especially cannabis jobs, prioritized for Black folk especially. I do think it's awesome that Biden, pardoned federal crimes. I think it was all federal crimes, right, of cannabis.
It was simple possession, which, from
Oh,
my
okay.
understanding, honestly, was not that many people. I believe it. The count was 6,100 people since 1991.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that kind of seemed like a half measure to me. I mean, it did seem like a step in the right direction,
Yeah.
but really, to me, what I saw on the back end was just a bunch of these fucking Chad investors on the internet going crazy. Because now they're,
Yeah.
but like it seemed like a symbolic thing before an election to get some points.
Exactly. Very performative. Yeah. Because it should be all cannabis crimes, period. Like anything to do with cannabis, period,
Right.
should be forgiven. And people should not be in prison for cannabis. Like people serving long sentences of their life for selling a plant. Like,
which, by the way, some of this is stemming from Joe Biden's drug policy back in the early 90s, when him and Bill Clinton and some of these other leading Democrats really, they were the ones pushing for this tough on crime, more cops, kind of mandatory minimum sentencing for, sentencing crack cocaine 5 times more than powder cocaine, which was fucking racist policy, if you
yeah.
ask me, from any way you look at it. And now, sort of, here we are, like with Joe Biden, like making these speeches, and Kamala Harris up there, bless her heart, but she, locked up almost 2,000 people for weed charges during her time, and it seems kind of, it's hard for me to sit there and swallow this from those two specifically.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, it's like, it's just so, to me, it's like 100 years. Like, it's just like, how is it taking this long? Like, and to me, again, like, I know that corporations run politics. So to me, I immediately think, who's lobbying? Who's lobbying against this? Because it's money, obviously, somewhere that's keeping this from happening. But
or money that's perhaps maybe money that's perhaps shaping it in a way that's more favorable
For
for their.
some people.
Hmm.
Yeah, for their interests. And that's politics, it's people looking out for their own interests and their own buddies, and um that's always how it's going to be, and we got to work around it. But I think, coming together and advocating for more equity, like even just like having these conversations and meeting with other businesses and being like, hey, like something we're doing is we're offering a discount on tolling on processing material for all equity businesses that
Oh,
qualify as equity. That's,
cool.
something small that we can do. And even
Nice.
just us doing that and telling people that, maybe they'll consider something like that, you
Yeah,
know?
that's super cool.
Hmm.
I like these companies that are doing shit without having a fucking state mandate to do it. I talked to one other company. I don't know if they're gonna want me to drop their name, but I'll do it privately. But they said they were gonna offer medical patients the tax-free option to purchase at their adult use dispensary, whether or not, because that was something that got floated a lot, and there was a lot of pushback from the MSOs, of course, who don't want that
Hmm.
because then you might go to a retail dispensary and just get the same thing, or something better maybe for, you
Yep.
know. So I thought that was a really nice gesture, and it's nice to see some people trying to like just take their own steps to sort of address some of the concerns that they're seeing in the market.
Hmm. Absolutely, yeah. And I think even just like for me, literally just existing and being in this cannabis market, like as a Mexican female person, like is disruptive in itself, like just literally just being there. When people come in to the lab, especially, like I know I'm gonna get this all the time, like you're gonna talk to Justin, assuming that just Justin is the business owner, because he's a male. And, I can say, actually, like I own most of the business. So
That's
like
good.
things like that.
Make them a little uncomfortable right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And to me, it means a lot just like having my own brand line where I'm going to put titles of products in Spanish, and I don't care if you understand it. Like we'll have a description of what it is under it. Like, I want other Latino people to see like Latino people in cannabis, like that we belong here.
Hmm.
It's not just like a rich white dude place to be, because it's always been medicine that we use. I mean, since the Spanish brought it over, which that was like one of the good things they brought over. Everything else sucked.
Yeah, and I gotta tell you the amount of like just like suits that I see out here is just like, it's like, why do we have to let these people just get set up in every industry? Like this one in particular seems like it's like, okay, fine, you got your hedge funds and all that shit, but like weed is never like, hmm, the whole idea of, like, I get it that people got to make money, but some of these people, that's all they want to do. That's all they want to
Exactly.
do, and they're shareholders. That's all they want, and they don't
And
care
they
what the
don't
fuck.
even smoke, a lot of them.
Right? A lot of them
Use
don't even
cannabis.
smoke, man. They wouldn't know what good weed looked like if you showed it to them. And I really feel like it's just a damn shame to see all these money grubbing whores just trying to get in here and ruin such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, exactly. And um, I strongly believe, like I said, in plant medicine and like the energetics, and like plants have a spirit, and like if you disrespect that, like that's gonna show up in your medicines, your products. So like hopefully people can recognize, like we talked about this, so many people I feel like try CBD, like especially from the gas station, and it doesn't work, and they're like, it's a scam, and I'm like, no, like try some real stuff, please. Like please don't buy it at the gas station.
Yeah, I see that. I see that Cumbies CBD down there.
Yeah,
Terrible.
no.
It seriously looks like a NASCAR logo or something. It's atrocious.
Oh,
Before we get out of here, you mentioned earlier that you did some traveling, maybe to Mexico, and met with um, some like healers or some. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I was super fascinated by that story.
yeah, absolutely. So, as an adult, not so much as like a younger person, just because like living in poverty, and if you've lived in poverty and instability, like you don't have time to be like, who am I? Like what is my indigenous culture? Like, no, like I had no idea, I was just like trying to go to college, trying to like have a job and like find stability, like that's all we were focused on. But as an adult, like both me and my dad have been connecting to our culture that we've been disconnected from, like his mom um died when he was, we were pretty young, from cancer. And, like I said, she worked in a sweatshop 12 hours a day. Like she wasn't like, she was just surviving, like many immigrants are. And um, my dad has always been like, he's like the darkest one in his family. And like, there is severe racism in Mexico too. Like, there are many terms, derogatory terms toward more indigenous looking people, like essentially browner people. And then to Black Mexicans, there's a lot of Black Mexicans, but there's a lot of racism and colorism that kind of like it's trickled down from like the caste system that they used to have that the Spanish implemented. So anyway, so he like was always like, oh, well, I'm like proud, like that's kind of how you cope. Like when you're told, by your own family that like you're the ugly one, like you're the Indio, you're the indigenous ugly one, like you cope with being like, well, I'm proud, I'm brown and proud, And then especially moving to New Hampshire and Vermont, where he gets followed around in the store. People stare at him everywhere he goes, because they're like, oh my God, a brown person. Um, so he was always like, mija, we're indigenous, like we're proud. We should be proud of who we are, So I think it was really meaningful for him to like finally get that affirmation of um like getting the ancestry test, seeing, that he is predominantly indigenous. And like we did one that specifically tells you like what, tribal ancestry you have. So that was really validating. We kind of like knew from like the region our family was from, and confirmed it with the DNA test. And then my sister, like I said, my younger sister is like a getting to be like a famous poet and musician and stuff. So she lives in Mexico City and travels everywhere. So I was able to start going to Mexico, visiting her. And it's helpful to have someone that lives there, you know and she brought me around to some different places, like some ruins. And there's like there's more like healing places that have like more curanderas, they call them, which are like the healers. And then sweat lodges, which we call temazcales. So um I met a teacher by
Oh,
taking the sweat lodge.
I got the banana man. Sorry.
Just the doggies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we just like found a teacher doing the sweat lodge and connected with him. And I kind of like we visited him a few times and stayed in contact. I have his WhatsApp and stuff. But he's just so willing to share, and if you find like the right person, if you're like from that culture, you should absolutely connect with your culture, and people are willing to share because that's preserving the culture. Like everything he knows, he learned from his grandparents, and that's been handed down for generations. So that's amazing. And so our family is from the Nahua Huasteca people. So the Nahua lived in was known as like the Aztec Empire, and Nahua was the language that the Aztecs used too. So we're super lucky that the Spanish documented a lot of our culture because they wanted to like be able to know what it is to like ban it, you know? Like it's especially the spirituality, because people were literally killed for practicing it. Like they had to know what it is because they were like, you have to convert or you're tortured publicly or killed or imprisoned. So it's like incredible that the culture is still alive, so connecting to that was super, super meaningful to me, and like very like validating of just lots of things that I don't know, like it's weird. Like I just kind of knew like a lot of these things. And then like just being validated with a teacher, just simple things like how the elements of the earth can heal you, how certain plants were really important to our culture that I already just like naturally gravitated toward. Like mugwort. Mexican mugwort is really important. Yarrow. We have yarrow in Mexico too. Things like that. So that's why I named my brand name Xochitl. So Luna Xochitl means moon flower. Xochitl means flower in our language of Nahua. And flowers are really, really important in our culture. Like they're like healing beings. And we even had we had two gods named after flowers, Xochitl and Xochipilli. Xochipilli, I actually did a painting of him, super, super cool. They had on one statue of him carvings of like all these different psychedelic flowers, like tobacco, datura, peyote, and mushrooms. Mushrooms are really important to Mexicans. Yeah. So he's always just like spoken to me because he's very like I don't know, using plants to like raise consciousness is like his idea, of his being. And then he's also like the god of artists and like creatives and people that like raise consciousness, and gay people. So he's a fun guy. Fun guy. Get it?
Cool.
But yeah, so that's the inspiration behind my brand name, and just representing the culture and keeping it alive, and that just means the most to me.
So when are we opening a jazz club?
A jazz where we can get satanic.
Yeah, we can get white women all potted up on weed and play jazz tunes until 3 a.m.
And
Cool.
mariachi.
Yeah, there you go. Even better.
Yeah,
Cool.
for sure.
We got about 5 minutes left here, Hope. I really want to thank you for time. This has been a fascinating discussion here. Also, I forgot to throw out what license type you're getting. I usually ask that at the top, but I think it's a tier 2 manufacturing, right?
You got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And you guys are just waiting for your zoning approval or something?
Yeah, waiting for the last things. Our application was approved. We don't have the license yet, so we're just kind of chilling. Still doing the CBD thing. I will continue making CBD products afterward.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, we're excited.
Well, I'm
Excited
psyched
to
to
like
see.
people.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys turn out. I know you guys have spread a lot of good love around the state, and I know a lot of other people are excited to see what you got cooking as well. Um,
Good, good.
so yeah, Hope Aguilera, Luna Xochitl, thank you for your time. I always leave the last word for my guests, so this is all you right now.
Awesome. So if other businesses watch this and are inspired, I really encourage you to think about some kind of mutual aid or equity, anything that you can do, whether it's like offering a discount to other equity businesses, or even just connecting with other businesses. I only know of one other Mexican business from Caleb, like that's not licensed yet too, but if you find out of these other businesses, just like give them a shout, hype each other up, recognize like we're coming from a lot more marginalization and less privilege. So, everything is more difficult for us. Like, we're literally set back in like every part of life sets us back. But yeah, and we're really excited to make some really good, affordable, solventless products. Justin's really excited about his concentrates that are gonna blow your mind, and some amazing flavors. So yeah, we're excited, and thank you so much for having me, Caleb.
It's been a pleasure, and I'm psyched to see you guys shacked up with the Forbins guys.
Yeah, they're amazing. Shout out to Forbins, Angela and Nick. They're
Beautiful.
making growing some amazing stuff. Yeah, we're excited to make some magic with their product too.
Yeah, that's a combination I like. Hope, thank you so much here. I'm going to get out of here before I steal your last word again. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Good luck out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Caleb.
Peace.